Good morning. It's Make It Monday, Jane.
It is.
It's not really. Not for us, it's not. We need to give it away. We've pre-recorded today. For those of you who don't know, we're moving premises. And so in the interest of making sure you definitely get a show, in case any tech wizards were slightly less wizardy and a little bit more disastrous, or in case we just couldn't find everything,
Yes.
we've pre-recorded today to make sure that you definitely get the last block of the 12 in the calendar quilt. So we're not here, but we are, but we're not, but we are.
Yeah, but no, but.
Yeah, a bit no, but. I'll be around in the chat, so if you are there watching, chat to me. I shall be tapping away. Jane, because we're not live, and I can't sort of say what everyone's saying and chat to them and all that shenanigans, I'm going to say we crack on. Very quickly we'll talk about the project.
Yes.
And then we'll crack on with the demo.
Righty-ho.
Because that's what everyone wants to see, isn't it?
That's why they're here.
What was the whole point of this project, Jane? Where did this come from?
It came from Natasha wanting to do something which was a bit more applique based.
Yeah.
A block of the month project. And so we came up with the calendar quilt.
We did.
So each month depicts something that I felt sort of went with the month. Mm-hmm. So you can't see January, February, Marches, because we want you to see what
we can hear.
The block that is for today, which is the Christmas winter wreath.
Your first block was this one.
Yes, this is Frosty Flakes.
We'll show you the first 3 because the other 9 are behind us.
The idea was there was going to be a little different technique each month, so it gives you a taster. So you can have a go. You don't have to make a whole quilt with it. You might want to make it into a perpetual calendar like these are.
Like
they've got a little sleeve on the back so you can hang them. You could make them into a cushion front. You could table runners, placemats, whatever you wish. You might want to make a whole quilt with the same block. You might just want to do one block and make it into a calendar quilt like we have behind us. This is EPP using the Ashmead hexiforms, which are lovely, so you don't have to remove those. They stay within the project because it's like wadding that they're mounted on. It gives it a lovely sort of 3-dimensional effect.
It does.
We talked a little bit about free motion quilting. There's some gems in your pack so that you can sew those on to give it a bit more of a blingy effect. Wouldn't recommend that if you're doing it for the quilt because obviously they're going to get washed and they might come off. But
nice for wall decoration.
Lovely to hang for your calendar, and you can really make lots of highlights on that.
Beautiful.
February's block was ribbon weave
Yeah.
and reverse applique. So we did some ribbon weaving with some fabrics, then we did reversed applique to mount that within, and that makes the heart shape for February, which is Valentine's.
Completely different techniques.
Then we've got March winds, patchwork, applique, bonded applique, and a bit of free motion embroidery. And again, we were lucky that Gemma got her phone and we went right close up and we got some really good camera angles of the free motion applique.
So Jane, those first 3 blocks you can't see on the quilt that's behind us here because we've folded it over. So lift it all up so that you can see the bottom row because our block that we're doing today is here.
Yeah. So it's 12. It's 3x4, so 12 blocks. Obviously, we then go from March to April showers. We've got some padded applique there. May is a Baltimore style, which you can do needle turn, or I've done a little cheat way of doing it on the machine.
We love a cheat way.
We do. We've got June flowers. We've got the butterfly. It's all bonded applique with free motion embroidery on. July always makes me think of summer fairs, so I've done a nice little summer fair with the bunting. That's all bonded applique.
French knots in there as well.
Yeah, there's some hand embroidery, flowers and things. We've got August summer holidays, so we've got a sandcastle, bonded applique and free motion embroidery. And we have some patchwork for September for the maple leaf block.
Beautiful.
Which is really lovely.
Really nice.
Then we've got October, pumpkin patch. Harvest time.
I love these pumpkins.
Again, padded applique
another
and bonded applique.
Same with your cloud. You get that nice 3D effect, don't you? It's really nice and
It's lovely. It gives it a
Tactile.
good sort of effect. And then we've got fireworks for November. This
was
is foundation paper.
phenomenally popular.
Amazing.
Yes.
Because it's foundation paper pieced, and I didn't think people were that keen, but they loved it.
Yes.
And lovely demonstration on there with the sparkle blenders. So that's foundation paper piecing.
Now, just to pause very quickly, Jane, that one there, it did sell out.
Yes.
And you were distraught. It was only a month ago we did that one, but there was a lot of upset people. Like,
Yeah.
oh no. And there were some of you buying 4, 5, 6 kits, clearly intending to make a whole quilt of this. Or
Yeah.
Lord knows what you were doing. Please let us know. We'd love to know. But we have restocked the batik and the blenders to be able to make some more kits. Now, we can't promise we'll be able to make tons, but if you want it, it's on the website. Grab it while you can.
Yeah. We've got lots. I think we've got several of all of the kits still available. So if you're just joining us and you're thinking, oh, I'd like to try this, we do have the kits for all of the blocks.
And then today's block, Jane.
And I've called this winter wreath rather than Christmas wreath, just because it's going to be, if you're going to use it for the calendar, like the perpetual calendar, you're going to have it all through December. So we've got the Christmas roses, holly, and a nice sparkly bow. All different techniques, which I'm going to talk you through now.
Amazing. Jane, I'm going to move these blocks.
Yes.
Because you've got a kit, and the kit today is great value. I mean, they've all been great value. We've tried to make sure we do that so that you can get those, enjoy them, and learn all these new techniques. Jane's going to very quickly show you the kits. It's on the website.
Yeah, we've done the kits so that you can make 2 blocks. So you could make the perpetual calendar and the quilt. There's enough in each kit to make 2 block fronts.
That's been the case every month.
Yeah, we've always done that. So you've got a lovely little bit of textured linen. That's Macawa fabric. It's a 1/2 metre piece of that, which is the background fabric. Got a long quarter of this lovely red batik, which I've used for the berries for the holly, and I've also used it for the binding and the border around the block.
Fabulous, isn't it, that one?
It's gorgeous. Red, fat quarter of the brown batik, that's used for the wreath itself. You've got a fat quarter of white, which is used for the Christmas roses. A fat quarter of the green, which is used for the holly leaves.
Again, a lovely smoke batik.
Smoke batik.
Yep.
Then we've got the red sparkle blender, so fat 1/8 of that, that's used for the bow.
It is.
And then you've got a fat 1/8 of the apple, plain apple, and that's the centre of the roses.
Yes.
So everything you need in there for the fabrics. You've also got a 1/2 metre of Bondaweb and a 1/2 metre of medium weight interfacing. Now, the medium weight interfacing I use on the back of the block to stabilise it for the bit of free motion embroidery that I do.
Yes.
So that's why that's in there.
Amazing. So you've got everything you can
Everything
possibly
you
require. There's
need.
thread.
Some
And your
thread.
instructions, as always, are not included because we do printed instructions and digital ones.
Yeah.
And some of you prefer one, some of you prefer the others. So choose your instructions, and the instructions will come with the templates as well.
Yes, we've got the templates. You've got in your templates, you will have the templates for the bow. The dashed lines go underneath when you're putting it together, and I'll talk about this in a moment. You've got your holly leaf, you've got your Christmas rose, the centre of the Christmas rose, and that's your holly berry.
Sweet.
You will need a little bit of template plastic, but we've given template plastic in previous kits.
We have.
You've probably got enough. It only takes a small amount in your stash. And then you've got the guide for the circle, which isn't particularly circular, but it's a circle that the wreath goes on.
So it's a placement guide.
Yes, it is. So you can copy that through. So you take your background fabric, all measurements and everything are in your instructions. Fold it in half so you get a crease down the middle, and then place your fabric over the line like so. Now I've used a different template on mine to this one, so my circle is slightly different.
Thought out, Jane.
But there you go. Just so that you can follow the circle around and get the shape, and then you can turn it round rather, and you can place your fold on the fold line again and trace the other half off.
Great.
You only need one line to follow, but I've given you the whole circle so that you can see how it goes together. you'll draw your line on. I've used iron erasable, heat erasable pen, but it wouldn't matter whether you used just an ordinary pencil because you won't see this line after we've done the bias. So we're going to make a bias strip. You've got your fat quarter of your brown fabric, and you're going to place your 45-degree line of your ruler along the edge, the bottom edge of your fabric. So I've got the 45-degree line on my ruler there. I'm going to slide it across so I can get the longest length possible without losing the end of the ruler, which is about there, because you need a little bit to cut against and a little bit on the mat so that you've got something to cut against both times. I'm going to cut along the edge of my ruler there to give me my length there. I'm going to move that piece out of the way, turn my piece of fabric around and measure 1 1/4 inches. Sorry, do it the right way around. Measure 1 1/4 inches from the cut edge.
Okay.
Now, I think you would probably need 2 strips. You'll have to join it just so that you've got enough to go all the way around. It doesn't matter if you don't meet in the middle because you'll cover that with the bow at the bottom.
A nice sharp rotary blade is your friend here, isn't it, Jane?
Absolutely.
And we love the creative grids because they've got that lovely non-slip grip as well.
Yeah, they're great, and they've got all the marks on them. So the white marks on them is 1/4 inch, so it's easy to see straight away. That's 1, and then the quarter mark is the next white mark along there.
We have actually got the Big Easy in stock as well, and he's a big boy.
Yes,
It's a good one for cutting.
Comes in very handy.
Yeah.
So we can join the strip together. Now we've got a 45-degree line already cut on here because we've cut it on the bias. So to join it together, we're just going to line those 2 edges up against each other so that they're sort of like at a 90-degree angle, and make sure that we've got the 1/4 inch overhang on the top and the bottom. That's the seam allowance, to make sure that it stays in a straight line. So we'll just sew that. You can put a pin in it to hold it while you sew it. We can then press that seam open. Finger pressing it will probably hold it. And then we need to press the strip in half, wrong sides together.
Jane, is there a way to tell the wrong side on a batik?
It's very difficult, but it's slightly blurry on the wrong side of a batik. The fabric feels slightly rougher as well on the wrong side.
Okay.
It's not very easy to tell, and in the end of the day, I don't think it matters overly. It's enough to
watch your fingers, everyone.
Yeah, keep your fingers out of the way.
We've all done it. It's not big, it's not clever. You won't thank yourself.
No, and it hurts. So
even when you've got asbestos quilter's hands like Jane. Magic stitchy witchy fingers. Because how long have you been quilting, Jane?
Well, probably thinking about it now. I did my first quilting patchwork project when I was about 15, so it's when you stop and think about it.
Oh, 20 years ago, Jane.
Yeah, easily. No, 10-ish.
And a few.
No, yeah, quite a long time.
Yeah.
I'd had quite a big break in between that, but that was the first time I got the bug for patchwork and quilting.
Lovely.
Done all sorts of other things in between, cross stitch, card making, and
Well,
all of
we
that.
tend to
We've
be
all done
crafty
it,
in
don't
many
we?
ways, don't we?
Knitting and all of that. So you've got your strip now, and starting at what will be the base of your, I mean this is in the centre so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to cut that off so that it's square. You could use your rotary cutter and ruler, but I think it won't matter if it's a little bit wobbly.
No.
We're going to line the raw edges up with the edge of the circle, and we're just going to pin those in place, pin as we go, just lining that up, and we don't have to worry about what's going on with the folded edge. It's all the cut edges that are against the line that we've drawn. Just moving that round, and this is why we've cut it on the bias, so that we can do these gentle curves without getting any wrinkles, she says confidently. So yeah, we'll just pin that all round.
Set confidence, Jane, you're part way there, aren't you?
Well, this is it. Give the illusion of knowing what you're talking about.
Why not? There's a lot to be said for confidence in quilting, actually, isn't there? The biggest barrier, I think,
Yeah.
to any sewing related activity is confidence.
Yeah, and I
actually
think
the willingness to give things a go.
I think the thing is we get very worried that other people are going to judge what we're doing, and I don't think a lot of people, if you gift something to them, they don't know what it was supposed to look like in the first place. They're going to be delighted you've made something for them. And generally speaking, if you're making something for somebody else, they don't know how to do it anyway.
No, exactly.
So they'll be impressed with the wizardry that's gone on to create such a beautiful thing.
And actually, if it does go horribly wrong, although I do dislike that phrase because how wrong can things go? But if it goes so wrong it's not giftable, no one knows you gave it a go anyway.
Well, this is
and
it.
You're doing it quite often in the privacy of your own home.
I'm just going to pin that little bit there.
We learn by making mistakes.
Of course we do. That's the only thing that, if you don't make a mistake, you've never made anything. That's what they say.
That's so true.
So now we're going to sew that close to, well, 1/4 inch away from that cut edge.
Jane, that pinned down really nicely and easily and curved really beautifully, and that's because of your biased edges, isn't it?
Yes, this is why we've cut it on a bias, so that we've got this lovely gentle curve, and hopefully that prevents any puckers or tucks or anything like that in the fabric.
Yeah.
Just take your time as you sew it round. If you're doing this at home, you will change your thread quite a bit with this project, changing your thread to match your fabric.
Oh, okay.
It takes quite a while to change the thread on this machine,
Well,
so
also,
I shan't be doing it.
yeah, when we're demonstrating, it really does help if we do stitch in a contrast colour, because then you at home can see exactly where Jane's stitch line is.
Yeah,
Because otherwise, it's a bit of guesswork on your part.
it can be. Yeah,
We
no,
don't like
you
to have to guess.
need to be sure of what you see and what what we're telling you.
Yeah. Well, that is our excuse for never changing the thread anyway.
Yeah.
If in doubt,
Use
blame the demo.
use a neutral thread. Generally speaking, for this part, a neutral coloured thread isn't going to show anyway. So we're just bringing that round, and as I said, it doesn't matter about the join because we're going to cover that over with the bow on the wreath.
Perfect.
So we've got that far. Now what we do is we take the piece of bias tape that we've made and we fold that back against that sewn line,
Yeah.
and we pin it again. Now we can sew this down by hand using, like a hem stitch.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, something that's not going to show very easily.
Yeah.
Or you can take it to your machine and you can sew all the way around the edge. But you're just pushing it back, and because we've done it on the bias, again, it will lie flat for you. It won't pucker up or wrinkle.
I remember the first time I saw you do something like this, and I thought, well, why is it not pulling everything? Why is it laid flat? It is just that bias edge.
It
Makes all
is.
the difference.
It just gives it that little bit of stretch, if you like, for want of a better word. Now, we did this method when we did the Baltimore for the Mayflowers as well. So we've looked at this technique previously. So just pin that down to hold it. Oops. And we're just going to sew as close to the edge, that folded edge, as we comfortably can. And this is where I say, you know, ideally you want to have a thread that matches your fabric.
But Jane isn't. Jane, where your two pieces of bias tape meet at the bottom, if they don't meet, if there's a little gap between those two pieces, we're not going to panic, are we, Jane?
No, because it's going to be that gap will be covered by the bow.
The beautiful big red sparkly bow is going there.
So don't worry. You could have probably could have got away with one strip of fabric, but I didn't want to get halfway around and find I hadn't got enough, so that's why I sewed two together. But it also means that, you know, if you've got a shorter piece of fabric, you can join it. You can cut it and join it, so it's not a problem.
And if your stitching isn't absolutely perfect all the way around this hoop, there's going to be a lot of applique pieces going over in different places that will throw the eye anyway, aren't there, Jane?
Yeah, you're not going to be honest, you don't see very much of the wreath anyway, so don't panic about it. If your stitch is a little bit wobbly, you know, or if it's not quite, you know, even, it just adds, and if you're using the same colour thread, it's hardly going to be seen anyway, so you know, don't worry. So there's your wreath. So we're now going to place all the pieces that you need to create the effects that you need. A lot of it is bonded applique, so you've got your bonder web in your in with your pack. Bonder web is an adhesive sheet of it's an adhesive sheet which is activated by glue heat. So they're very fine dots of adhesive on a sheet, and there's a paper front and a adhesive backing. The adhesive backing is slightly shiny and a bit rough. The paper side is smooth and slightly dull. Gotcha. So to trace your pieces off, you place your bonder web onto the templates with the paper side facing upwards, and you just trace the shape that you want with a pencil or a pen, it doesn't really matter, and you will trace. For your holly leaves, I've done 9 because I've done 3 clusters of 3, but you could do more. The thing is with this, you can, you know, you've got artistic license with it. Nobody, I'm not going to come to your house and say, oh, excuse me, that's not how I designed it.
Now don't use your fabric scissors here.
No.
Next thing, isn't it, Jane?
I should be using paper scissors. I'd be very naughty.
But they're not your best scissors.
They're not my best scissors, they're my second best scissors. Just don't cut on the line, just cut, you know, a scant 1/4 of an inch-ish around the line. You're going to draw, paper scissors.
That's what we do, we write on them.
You're going to draw around more than one, so you can have them close together. You can draw, you know, you could draw one on there, and then you could just move the paper across and draw the next one on. They can be close together when they're drawn on, but when you're cutting around the shape, just cut quite close to the shape but not on the drawn line. You're then going to place the bonding side, the glue side, onto the wrong side of your fabric. Oops, let's just move that down a bit. Yeah. And then we're going to press that with an iron.
Even I can do this bit, Jane.
Yeah, and the heat activates the glue, making it melt and stick to the fabric. So just give it a moment to sort of cool down a little bit.
Because your adhesive's kind of liquefied, hasn't it?
Yes.
And then now it needs to dry.
It'll cool down and it'll solidify if you like.
Yeah, that's the one.
And so now you will cut around your shape on that drawn line. You'll take your time, you won't rush it like what I is doing.
And Jane, if the drawing or the cutting goes wrong at all, again, it doesn't really matter. And
no, the thing is, we're working on what are basically natural shapes.
correct.
So, you know, no two holly leaves are the same.
No, true.
As are no two Christmas roses, dog roses. I don't think they're called dog roses, are they? I think they are just Christmas roses. So don't worry if you're, you know, you're following the template and you go a little bit wobbly. It's probably better to have them slightly different to the other shapes. Now, you will take your leaves. Thank you. Glamorous assistant. And with a pin.
I know this trick, Jane.
Yeah.
The first time you showed me, I was like, yes.
With a pin, just run it along the middle of the shape on the paper side. And you can see that starts to go opaque and then the paper rips and you can get the pin in underneath.
Lifts.
It lifts the paper off, leaving, and I don't know if you can see that, but it's quite dull, a little bit shiny, the adhesive on the fabric. Now, I say to do it this way because it's quite a quick way of doing it. If you try and get your nail underneath the edge there and flick the paper off, that's come off really nicely because I'm trying to demonstrate it.
Yeah, it's been a little while it's sat like that there as well, hasn't it? But
You're in danger of fraying the fabric. It doesn't always come off nice and clean like that. You might get your fabric fraying. So I always say just run your pin along the middle till it rips and then it'll come off nice and easily.
I got so excited about this tip, Jane, is I have frayed edges on things by trying to pick the edge. So do heed Jane's warning here. It is a top tip for a reason.
Now we've put the holly leaves at 12 o'clock and at 3 and 9 o'clock on my pattern. Again, you know, you've got artistic license here. You can do with it as you wish.
Da, 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 da.
You can see.
You've done yours slightly different on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could put them, you see I've done it like that.
10 to 2 and
Like that.
6. Yeah.
But you can put them however you wish. So, you know, my instructions are there as a technical guide to show you how to do the process. The actual placement and everything like that is completely up to you how you want to finish it. You might want to have, I've got 4 roses and 3 holly leaves. You might wish to have 4 holly leaves and 3 roses. You might want to have more of everything. You can bunch it up and
Might want to have more bows.
make it closer. Yeah, absolutely. So once you're happy with where you've got your
You might want to make
holly,
it a robin. Someone
if
might
you're
make it a robin.
artistic enough, you can certainly do that. So once we're happy where the placement is, we literally just place the iron on. You might want to put a Teflon sheet, a bit of greaseproof paper, anything like that between your iron and the fabric, just to protect it from any glue that might be lurking around. There shouldn't be any, it should be fine. Just make sure that when you're putting this holly leaf on at the top that you give yourself a good 1/2 inch space there, because you don't want to go into your seam allowance. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
Good
So
point, Jane.
the bow, as I said to you, on the pattern you'll see some dashed lines. What I've done is I've taken the line just a little bit past where I originally drew it, just so that you can tuck it underneath on your, so placing the bow like so. You'd place those pieces down. You've got this piece that tucks underneath there, and this piece goes over the top and tucks over there, and then the actual knot of the bow then sits on top of all of those pieces. And again, it's Bonder web, you've traced it off, so you can just peel the paper off and you can fix that on.
And you bond those individually, Jane.
I would place it down, take the papers off, place it down, and once you're happy with where the placement is, you can just plonk your iron over the hotel.
Amazing.
If you want to, if you're not too sure, you could just place it down, get it in the right position, and then just remove each piece in order, and then you can bond that piece down and then bond the next one on. But you might find it more comfortable to place it all down. Obviously you'll take the papers off first, place it all down, and once you're happy with the whole placement, just
crack on.
your iron on the top like that, and that'll hold it all down. I'm going to move this out of the way now.
That's in exactly the same way as the holly leaves. So
yes, it's the same principle, exactly the same thing.
Great.
So now the holly berries. These are a little bit fiddly. You will need a bit of wadding, and literally that is way more than you need, absolutely loads more than you need. Now you've got your template there. That is not my hollyberry, is it?
That's a template from another month.
That isn't what it is. That's something else.
It's from the Baltimore May block,
yes,
middle of the flowers.
It
That's
is.
what that is.
It is. So you'll take your template plastic and you'll cut a piece of template that's the same size as that. So you'll draw your template around. And just use a bit of cardboard here, and I'll just copy that over. You probably can't see that through, but I can. So it's very small. Paper scissors. And you'll use paper scissors with your template plastic as well.
Oh yes, for sure.
Don't
use your good ones.
Don't use your bestest ones, definitely not, because template plastic will definitely
dull those, won't
dull them. So a little circular shape. And template plastic is better really, because you're going to do several of these. Now again, I've used clusters of 3, so 9 berries altogether. Again, if you wish to, you can make more. It's not, you know, there's no hard and fast rule. So on your wadding, put your little template down and draw around it. It's not easy drawing on wadding because it likes to move. But again, it doesn't matter too much. We're doing circular berries, but really berries aren't circular, are they?
No, so if they do go a bit wonky, that's okay.
Yeah, don't worry if it's not completely circular. So you'll draw around as many berries as you want to have. You will then cut out your piece of wadding around that drawn line. And again, you know, just take your time. It's only going to be a very small piece of wadding. It's likely that it's going to decide it wants to come apart. Just don't worry about it too much. Whoop. But you'll have lots of pieces of wadding like this. Now this is best to be done in a room without any drafts.
Or cats.
Or cats.
Or puppies. Or small children
that will want to help you or distract you.
Or sneezes.
Yeah. So you will place your piece of wadding on the back of the wrong side of your fabric, and I'm using the dark red for the hollies. There's nothing to stop you using your red sparkly if you so fancy. You've got plenty of it.
A bit of sparkle blender would look lovely.
So giving yourself a very generous 1/4 of an inch all the way around your piece of wadding.
Yeah.
So it looks something like that.
That shows really well. I was thinking we might need to close up, but we don't. You can see that really well.
So I am just taking a piece of thread. Now I've got embroidery thread on here because I was going to use it for a different demonstration in a minute, but we'll do it for this as well.
Something like a polyester thread.
Yeah, something nice and strong. You're going to do a gather stitch. Now I've taken and I've left a long length like so. So I've put a knot in it, but it's got a long length, and that's on the right side of my fabric.
Okay.
And then I'm going to run a gather stitch all the way around my circle. About 1/8 of an inch in from the cut edge. Again, it doesn't have to be precise. It just gives you the space to gather it up without it fraying the fabric, is what I'm trying to say. Words aren't working today.
That's all right.
So just move that tail out of the way and try and work it so that your gather then come, when you finish, you're next to where you started, coming on the right side of your fabric, so that you've got two tail ends basically.
I see.
So like so.
Yeah.
And then what you'll do is you'll tie those once, and then you'll give it a pull. It'll gather up, but it'll gather up around your wadding, and then you can flatten it. And again, you might just need to ease it slightly just to make it slightly more circular and less angular. The smaller your gather stitches are, the neater your circle will be. But it just pulls it up.
Look at that.
And then you can just finish tying that off like so, and then you can trim your threads.
Jane, this reminds me of like a teeny tiny little covered button,
Yes.
which, you know, you've got
And
covered button kits at home.
I was
you
going
want
to
do that?
say, if you don't want to do this and you've got covered buttons, or even if you've got lovely red buttons that you think, actually, I'm going to say red
that'd
buttons
look
on,
nice.
that will work as well.
Or beads, if
Or
you're
beads, yeah, if you're a
jewellery
beader.
maker, you might have some amazing
Just gives it a
beads.
sort of three-dimensional effect.
Yeah.
So again, I put clusters of the berries like so, and then I'll just, with my thread, I will just take it up from the back, take my needle through, just take it through the fabric,
All the way through.
all the way through like so. I thought I put a knot in that.
We've all done
You
it,
know what
Jane.
thought did? Yeah. And just gather the edges of the fabric. So just take your needle into the back of the fabrics, through the gathers. A bit like sewing a button on. Go back through. And you'll do that a couple of times. And it just gives it that little bit of looseness, which gives it the element of 3-dimension. You could, if you wanted to, slip stitch it all the way around, which would flatten it against your fabric, but would still give it a little bit of poofiness. But I like the fact that it was just a little bit loose, so it was more tactile. And you'll do that with.
Wrong here, is there?
No, it's
personal
very
preference.
much personal preference. And as I say, you know, you might decide that you want to use beads or buttons, whatever you like the effect of better. It's your project. Nobody but you and I knows what it would have been like if you'd stuck exactly to the pattern. You know, I think sometimes patterns are there to guide you, not to set rules. Just taking it through the back of the fabric there, and that rough bit in the gathers, just taking it through. And you can go over it several times to fasten it down. And overlapping them slightly, I think, looks nice as well, because again, it just gives that cluster effect of the berries.
It really does.
It's a really lovely way of doing it. And then you'll just finish that off. And you don't have to worry about how neat your stitching is on the back, because as I say, we're going to cover that with interfacing, which will also protect that stitching, that hand stitching. So,
Right.
you know, you've got that added. And if you've got any loose threads from your gather, you can just snip those off as well if they're showing. Like so.
Marvellous.
I love these little hemline scissors, they're so sharp at the very edge. There we go. So that's how the berries go on.
Beautiful.
Lots of fun to do that, and sort of the thing that you could cut all your bits of wadding and do all your gathering sort of in the evening while you're watching the television.
Nice.
Make all your berries.
That's always been really, that and the bow have been really straightforward. The only remaining component then is the Christmas roses.
Yeah. Now the Christmas roses are slightly different, and we're using the same technique that we used when we did the Baltimore flowers. In so much as we're going to make them look like they're needle turned, but they're done on machine.
Ah, very good.
So again, we get the white fabric and the wrong side of the white fabric, and again it's very difficult to tell on plain fabric which is right and which is wrong. Again, if you feel it, one side is very slightly rougher and that is the wrong side. Draw around the shape, and again don't worry too much if your drawing around the shape is not exactly on the line. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
And we'll draw, as I say, I've done 4 roses. You can do more, less, none at all. If you'd rather just have holly, you might want to draw an ivy leaf and do an ivy leaves, holly and ivy. You know, it's a guideline. You can do what you wish with it. Now we're going to place it right sides together with another piece of the white fabric. I've simply just folded my fabric in half and placed it like that. You could fold it just over on the edge like that. You don't have to do. And then we're going to sew on that line around the shape. Yeah, around the shape, which again, don't worry if you don't sew on the line. Just take your time, nice and steady, moving the fabric under the machine. When you get to the end of the petal, stop with your needle down, turn your fabric. I would recommend using quite a small stitch, just because it'll make it easier for you to do the curves and it'll keep it together. It's less likely to fray and push out if the stitches are smaller and closer together. I've used a heat erasable pen, and again you could use a pencil, you could use any fabric marker with this because you're sewing on the line. If you use a water erasable one or a heat erasable one, you can get rid of the line before you turn it through, but it probably won't show anyway unless you use one of the bright blue water erasable ones, and that will show if you don't get rid of it.
Oh gosh, that wouldn't be fun.
Only because it's quite a bright colour.
Mm-hmm.
So when I've got back to the stitch, I just go back over the line just slightly, sort of sewing back over the same line as close as I can, just to finish it off, and that just sort of like holds the stitching. So I've sewn all the way around that shape. I'm then going to cut against my sewn line about 1/4 inch, a scant 1/4 inch, so quite close to the line but not too close, and obviously taking care not to sew through my stitching.
Yeah, that would be annoying, Jane.
It would be very annoying. You can see that I haven't kept particularly well to the line, but it's given me a guide to follow which gives me the shape that I need.
Yeah, we don't want you cutting through stitching.
No, it's very annoying.
It would be quite cross.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip into that seam allowance where the petals meet there. Okay. And again, just snipping into the seam allowance, taking care to avoid my line of stitching.
Yeah.
When I get to the points where the points of the petals are, I'll just take that point off the fabric, just because I just want to reduce the bulk. So it just takes sort of like the top of the fabric off. So we'll just snip all the way around, taking care not to, you can go straight across if you want, just be careful of the line of stitching. You don't want to cut through your stitching.
We might have mentioned that a few times now, Jane. However, I feel you can't mention it enough.
No.
You don't want to cut through your line of stitching. It will make you very sad and a little bit more annoyed than you'd like to be.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Because you'll have taken a long time doing this, and then you'll go to turn it through, and it just all comes unravelled, and you're just like, oh, I didn't want to do that.
Jane, it's biblical level rain out there.
I know.
It's horrendous.
Crazy.
You don't want that, thank you very much.
It's a bit of a shock after all this lovely mild weather that we've been having.
Beautiful. Listen to us talking about the weather. Proper British, aren't we?
Yeah, there's nothing else to talk about.
No. Quilting and the weather.
So now, yeah, food, definitely food. We're going to pull those 2 layers of fabric apart,
Okay.
and we're going to snip into one of the layers,
Yes.
being very careful that it is just one of them. And then we're going to snip just to make a line, a cut about 1 inch long, not too long, but long enough so that we can push the fabric through to the right side.
Shooty method here, I love it.
Just gives you, and it also gives a lovely dimension to the flowers as well, so it sort of gives them texture at the same time. Thank you. You're going to poke your petals through, taking care, as I said, at the points, just to poke it through, ease the fabric, just roll it between your fingers, give it a poke. Try and get a nice point on the petals if you can.
There can be a temptation to use scissors in these points, but
Well,
truthfully,
you're going to
you
very
can go
likely to
through
go through your
stitching,
stitching, yeah.
you go through stitching, you can catch your fingers when you do it as well.
Yeah, and then you'll get blood on your fabric, and that will be very annoying.
That's our biggest concern. But it's true. Blood on your fabric is not good.
No. If it's your own blood, you can use your own saliva to get rid of it.
Oh, it's a lovely story.
It's a lovely one. Just chew a little bit of your cotton and then use that to dab the blood spot
But
with.
better still, don't use scissors to turn these through. Use something sensible like Jane is, and don't cut yourself.
Well, yes, that is
Would be
the best
would be
alternative.
Look at that.
So you've got then sort of, it's almost like a starfish shape really.
Beautiful. Starflower, it's gorgeous.
And just roll the hems on the edges, just between your fingers and your thumbs, just to get them nice and flat.
I'd be inclined to batch stitches, because you've done 4 on yours.
Yeah.
Batch sew them all, and then sit and do the turning through in front of the telly. Am I going
Yes,
down
yes,
and up,
please.
Jane?
Just down, yeah. Thank you. Just to give it a nice press.
Just a little one.
So,
Is that enough?
yes, that's beautiful. You've got a circle here, a larger circle than the berry. This is the flower centre, which you do from your apple fabric. Again, we'll use a pin and we'll take the backing off the bonder web. And we take that and we place it in the middle-ish. I wouldn't bother too much about...
It moved when you moved your finger, darling, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
There-ish.
That's fine. Again, nature is not symmetrical. Don't worry too much about it. So you will place your rows, and as I said, I've got 4 on mine, so I've got my 3 bunches of holly, and then I'd have a rose either side, and then I've got my bow here. You'll place those where you're most happy with them. You'll have your main picture on your pattern to use as a fabric placement guide. Just pin them in place. Now, if you want to, you can look at the pattern, and you'll see that I've actually gone around the edge just inside. I mark this with a pen with my line of stitches, and then I've come in to make the petal shape, and I've gone back out, and I've come in.
Hey, you can see that on here.
And back out, and I've gone in,
She says.
and back out again. Just following the petal shape around the edge, but keeping quite close to the edge. Sewing that round. Now you can mark that with your pen fabric marker if you want to, but I've done it quite free motion. And it's just a case of starting in one petal, and you'll go over the line, and it doesn't matter that you go over the line. Again, it's quite freehand in a way. And again, just, take your time with your stitching. following it round the edge. And I've used the same colour thread. I used a thread that was very similar to this green, this yellowy green that I've used for the centre, just because I wanted to give that effect of the flower.
Nice.
I didn't use white. I didn't think that, I thought white would be too, it wouldn't give the effect that I wanted. It's almost like a shadow of the petals.
And Jane, this doesn't need to be perfectly stitched
No,
on the
again,
outside.
you know, the petals aren't all uniform. They don't all look the same.
You get ones that have got a nibbly bit missing out of
Yeah.
them and all sorts. Now,
So I've gone into the middle-ish,
yeah.
and I'm coming back, and I'm aiming to sort of sew on the same line, but it doesn't matter if it's not on the same line. It just gives the effect that you want.
Jane, sometimes when you're sewing around the edge of something like this, where there's quite a lot of bulk and, you know, you've got lines of stitching that you're getting close to and seams and what have you, sometimes your machine will send you off on a bit of a tangent.
Yes,
Or just throw you
be a
off
bit
little
wobbly.
blip. We don't need to worry about that, do we, with this?
No,
At all, because
it
won't
gives
affect
it,
the overall look.
yeah, it just gives it the organic sort of nature effect of the petals, I think.
Yep. Or if you fall off the edge of the petal.
If you want to, you could do this by hand. You know, there's lots of ways of doing it, and it will give you a lovely effect.
Excellent.
So once you've gone around the outside of the petals, and you could use your free motion foot to do this. We've talked about free motion embroidery. Press the wrong side of the petal there. Pedal.
There's a part of the pedal that you can put your foot on that will cut the thread, everyone. That's what just happened there for Jane.
So once I've gone around the outside, I then sew the centre down, and I did this just by literally going backwards and forwards from the centre out. And I did do this with my free motion foot, but it just went, and again, just find the centre point of the middle, and again, it doesn't really matter that it's not in the centre, but you just go backwards and forwards. Oh, long and short stitches.
I love this bit because I looked at this block the first time and I thought, oh, that's stunning. What's she done there? What's the detail she's done in the middle? And then I got close, and it literally is sort of
Just
almost a
random,
scribbly in, out, from the centre out.
Yeah, just a scribbly line.
I'm just going to quit. I'm going to do a naughty thing here with your stitching.
Yeah, just go straight. Just do it. See if you can see.
There you go.
Yeah.
Can you see what she's done in the centre of those?
So you can see on here. You can see on this one. I've only done a few bits of it, but you get the idea. Just backwards and forwards. Long, short. Just gives the effect of the stamen in the middle, which gives it a lovely texture to the roses.
But again, it shouldn't be orderly, neat, even, because it won't look natural.
No. And then I used my free motion embroidery foot, and I did the same with the holly leaves. I went round the outside edge, up along the middle, back down, and then out to form the stems on there. And again, not being too uniform and regular about it. And then on the bow, I've done the same again, and I've used a darker red colour, and I've just gone to give the shape of the bow there a little bit of a crease in the bow where it's tied against the knot, just to give it some definition.
But you've gone over twice. And,
Yeah,
you know, I do
gives
this.
it like a sketchy look.
Yeah, 2 or 3
You can
times.
see there I've actually gone off the fabric, but
that's okay.
it's not the end of the world,
that
is it?
adds to that look, doesn't it? You know, I do the same.
yeah. So when I came to quilt it, I did a quilting stitch. I did this on the machine on the inside, just on the inside, just about, you know, just echoing the shape.
Just makes it pop a little bit, doesn't
About
it?
1/8 of an inch. Now on the one on the quilt, I've cross-hatched it with hand quilting. So I'm just briefly, if I can see where I've put my needle down.
And if not, there's a beautiful picture in the instructions But you've just hand stitched, haven't you, like a crosshatch?
Yeah, it's like a running stitch.
Jane, can you not find your needle?
No,
Because the
it'll
picture
teach
in the
me.
instructions is beautiful. You
Yeah.
can see it. I've done a really great close-up.
It's a running stitch.
You
but
might well see it on here anyway, on the actual block.
Yeah.
Um,
You can see, and I've used...
it's here, isn't it?
yeah,
Literally
I've used
hands.
embroidery floss, one single strand, just because it's a little bit thicker, and it is literally a running stitch. To get the cross hatch, I went across the middle. Now you can do this with a ruler and your pen to mark it. You can decide how far apart you want your line. You know, you could do a 1/2 inch if you wanted to. You could do it closer together. You do your lines going one way, and then you would just go back and do your lines going the opposite way. I'm just using the marks on my ruler to line that up and work my way through, and you'll get a line to follow. Now you can use your quilter's tape, you can use masking tape. There's all sorts of tools out there that you can use too. And this is the iron away pen, so that's quite good because once you've done your sewing, you can do that no problem. I'm just trying to see if there's a needle on here, but I can't see one obviously.
Yeah, it's fine. And Jane, you know, we've spoken to people before who are dead against hand stitching.
Yeah.
Sylv. And we don't just push Sylv under the bus. She does it herself every time she watches a show. But there's any hand stitching, she goes, and where is the alternative option, please? Because no. And that's fine. Some of us don't like it. Some of us are too busy. Jane, you can stitch detail into the middle using your machine.
Using your machine,
and it
yes.
doesn't have to be crosshatch. It could be some amazing squiddly diddlies or anything else.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a straight line.
Nope.
It can be a squiggle. It can be another shape, a wavy line, anything you wish, really.
Yeah. But also, you don't actually have to put anything in the centre if you don't want
No,
to.
you don't.
Do you know what I want to put in the middle of mine, Jane?
What do you want to put in the middle of
I want
yours,
to put my
Gemma?
house number.
Oh, what a lovely
I want to put
idea.
the house number in the middle because then it will look like it's on my front door.
That's a lovely idea.
Or you could do a knocker.
You could.
Love a knocker. But you could, and you know, the house number going in the middle I thought was a little fun idea.
That's a lovely idea.
Yeah.
So,
And it's another bit of applique then.
yeah, hand
No need for
quilting.
this.
You get a knot into your thread, about 1/2 inch away from the end.
Great.
You start on the front, away from the line that you're going to stitch into,
Yeah.
and you pull, you bring your needle out onto the line that you're going to start on,
Okay.
and then you give your thread a little pull, and you hear the
Ooh,
pop.
Yeah, you do.
And you don't pull it, you pull it, but you don't pull it all the way.
Okay.
So the knot is about here
Right.
in your work. And then it really is just doing a running stitch. Don't worry if you can't see it on the back. If you're an experienced quilter, you should aim for getting the same size stitch at the back as the front.
Okay.
But really, you know, it doesn't matter. And you just follow the line, and you're aiming to get the stitch the same length as the gap. And
Brilliant.
again, don't worry about it if you don't. I would use a smaller needle probably for this, but you can actually do several stitches at once.
Again, don't poke your finger.
And you just do a running stitch all the way down, and then you'll go back down and you'll do the next one and the next one. And then you'll go the opposite way. And it just gives you that lovely texture, which is really nice. And
Jane,
that is
I
it
can't
basically.
believe this is block 12.
I know.
It's bizarre to me that we've done a block every
We've
month
done
and
it.
then we're here.
Yeah.
We're here. As far as the sashing and the finishing goes,
Next time
That's
we'll
something
talk
we'll
about
cover.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about that.
don't worry, we're going to do that as
We'll
well.
provide kits for the sashing and the binding in the next one, and there'll be instruction about how it goes together and the layout and how you can put it together. There's
Amazing.
several different ways of putting it together, so we'll talk about all of those.
Great. Brilliant.
I know, I can't believe that
I
we're
know.
12 blocks down.
No,
Amazing.
I know. Sorry, I'm taking
No, I
this
know,
stuff
it just
apart.
comes apart, doesn't it?
So I'm sure you're all loving it. We can't wait to see your blocks. Do make sure you grab your kits. They are on the website. Website right
Yes. Yep.
I can't get my words out today. We've
No.
been like it all week, all of us.
I know.
Natasha started it off and we've been the same.
It's exactly the
Oh
same.
my word. Thank you for joining us. It has been Make It Monday. Tomorrow and Wednesday, keep your eyes peeled, 10 a.m. See what's
Lovely.
going on. You never know what you might find. Jane, they'll see you next week.
They will.
They will. You've got exciting stuff to be showing.
Yes.
It'll be
Some
good.
nice things. Yeah.
Take care. Lots of love. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.